Here we have the appositive phrase, now a new phrase, which is the appositive phrase, and I will like to give some description about it. Appositive phrases are far more common than the absolute phrases, right? There is a separate video on the absolute phrase, the AP, and it says appositive phrases are far more common than absolute phrases, and therefore we are much more comfortable understanding this. There is not much of a difference between an appositive phrase and a noun phrase. The only difference is that an appositive phrase renames another noun just before it. Now, please understand this. The appositive phrase is nothing but a modifier, right? It's one of the modifiers. So, if I have to give you the name of the phrases, so adjectives act like modifiers, right? Again, I'm repeating something that I have repeated already in the previous videos. Adjectives act like modifier. Adverbs act like modifiers, right? Adjectives modify noun or they modify pronouns. Correct? Adverbs modify verb. They modify adjectives and they modify other adverbs as well. Similarly, these are modifiers, right? They modify a particular word. Adjectives modifies a particular noun or a pronoun. Similarly, you have absolute phrases modifying a noun or a pronoun. Prepositional phrases to modify something. Then we had participle phrases, they too modify something. Infinitive phrases, they also modify something. And we have now appositive phrase, they too modify something. So all these phrases, they modify something or the other. And what is a positive phrase? A positive phrase basically modifies a noun or a pronoun. It's just another way of naming the noun or the pronoun. For example, if I say Neil Armstrong, right? Neil Armstrong, comma, the first man to land on the moon, right? Neil Armstrong, the first man to land on the moon, right? Comma, and then I put was an American, right? So here we have Neil Armstrong was an American, and Neil Armstrong is also known as the first man to land on the moon. So it says here, right, the only difference is that an appositive phrase renames the another noun just beside it. So who is Neil Armstrong? The first man to land on the moon, right? I can say Karl Marx, right? Karl Marx, right? The man who wrote Das Kapital, correct? Was born in Germany, correct? So this is how we have. So appositive phrase is just another way of naming the noun that comes beside it. The richest man of the 21st century passed away this morning, right? The richest man of the 21st century is the noun phrase, right? The richest passed away this morning. So this is the verb, right? Who passed away this morning? The richest man of the 21st century passed away this morning. So this entire noun phrase, right? This entire noun phrase is basically the subject of the sentence. And then we had Warren Buffett, the richest man of the 21st century, passed away this morning. So here we have the name of the person, and here we have just another way of calling that person. Here, Warren Buffett is the subject of the sentence, while the richest man of the 21st century is the appositive phrase modifying the noun Warren Buffett. So basically, all appositive phrases modify a noun or the noun that comes immediately before it. In short, all appositive phrases are noun phrases. But all noun phrases may not be appositives, right? Shakespeare is my distant cousin, right? Shakespeare is my distant cousin. And who is Shakespeare? The Bard of Stratford upon Avon. Right? So Shakespeare is also known as the Bard of Stratford upon Avon. So this is a noun phrase, but it is acting like a modifier. Why? Because it is modifying. So we have given a different name to it. We call it as appositive phrase. Because it is a type of a noun phrase, but it acts like modifier. So I could have said the Bard of Stratford upon Avon is my distant cousin. I can remove Shakespeare, right? I can remove Shakespeare. In this case, in that case, this becomes the subject of the sentence, and this becomes the verb. Or I can put Shakespeare and I can make it as a modifier for Shakespeare. Charles Darwin, the man who challenged the biblical version of creation, was in his private life a very religious and God fearing person. Right? So the subject is Charles Darwin, and the verb is was, right? Charles Darwin was a very religious and God fearing person. And then you have modifiers. The first modifier modifies Charles Darwin, and then the man who challenged the biblical version of creation was, and then we have a modifier. It's a pause, basically. It's a pause. Was in his private life a very religious and God fearing person. Brajesh Pandey, the man who wrote this article, has had no formal or academic training in English grammar. And so here we have the subject of the sentence here, and we have the verb. Brajesh Pandey has had no formal or academic training in English grammar. And what is the modifier? The man who wrote this article. And this is basically the appositive. Correct? So the appositives are basically modifiers, and they modify the noun that comes immediately beside them, right? Just beside them. And most of the, in fact, appositives are nothing but noun phrases. But because they act like modifiers, we have a different name. Instead of calling it as a noun phrase, we call it as appositive phrase.